Hello, loves, and welcome to Cards and Stars, the series where I ask the tarot what your astrological placements mean for you. So I'm Brandi, and this is Venus in Retro Tarot, and today we are going to look at Saturn in the ninth house. Now, this will be for Saturn in the ninth house natal placements, but it also applies to if Saturn is transiting your ninth house. So this was by request, and I am loving that you guys are submitting requests. I love giving you what you want, so keep them coming. This has been such fun for me making these videos and putting them out, and I'm loving the feedback that I'm getting back. So I'm just loving that you guys like to see them, and as much as I have fun making them. But yeah, if you want to keep seeing more of this, don't forget to give a little love tap on that like button and subscribe. So I put out this content weekly, but let's go ahead and jump into this reading. Okay, so what is Saturn in the ninth house? Saturn as a planet is the planet of discipline. If we're looking at the card with the astrology on it. So Saturn has to do with structure, responsibility. Saturn is also said to be the Lord of Karma, but it deals with a lot of things like obstacles and delays, restriction. There's a lot that has to do with an element of patience, right? Because Saturn will delay things, but the positive side of Saturn is that the things that we work really hard for, the things that end up being delayed, like if we pass the tests, so to speak, of Saturn, we are very much rewarded for really sticking in there, being diligent and staying in our integrity. So it's really the planet that teaches us about discipline. It sometimes, you know, if we speak of the duality of the mother or father, Saturn is looked at as kind of like the father figure, similar but different to the sun. But yeah, Saturn is like, it rules time as well. So, and the ninth house is called the house of God, and it speaks to philosophy, religion. It's the house that corresponds with the sign of Sagittarius. So we're not necessarily doing Saturn in Sagittarius today because the houses and the signs are different, but they do have a little bit of overlap. But the ninth house is the place of Jupiter too. It's where the sun rejoices, but it has to do with publishing. Lots of astrologers will put astrology in the ninth house. It deals with foreign travel and, you know, opposite of the third house where it is, you know, the third house is our immediate surroundings in our neighborhood. The ninth house is like abroad and, you know, broad scale travel. It also has to deal with the law, so many things. It's where we find our spirituality, similar to the 12th house, but again, also different. And it really is about wisdom. So it can correspond to post graduate education. So not necessarily, I'm sorry, let me clarify that, like after high school, so like college and beyond, it can speak to higher education. Yeah, so putting these two things together, Saturn being a planet that's about discipline and structure and delay and sometimes obstacles, and the ninth house being where we want to really expand and explore and discover. You know, there is a sense of feeling that I get here of either there's some element I really feel before I even pull any cards of restrictions coming from family or restrictions coming from, you know, that opposition of the third house of our immediate surroundings. And this could be stemming from childhood, where we came from, our neighborhood, you know, the things that we grew up and were steeped in, you know, at our earliest years could really have, you know, affected our ability to expand into maybe finding our own philosophies, finding our own spirituality, expanding into higher education rather than just being, you know, exposed to, you know, lower forms like K through 12 education and kind of, you know, being, you know, limited to that. I mean, not saying that if you didn't go beyond high school, that is somehow limiting your life experience, but it's more about the experience of it. Like if you wanted to go further, if you wanted to travel, if you wanted to see the world, and then maybe, you know, the excuse me, maybe the way that you grew up or the environment that you grew up in. Like if you grew up in an area where it wasn't as possible to travel, or people didn't see the possibilities, or even in your extended family, like you grew up in a very orthodox kind of, you know, environment of, we do things a certain way. We don't, you know, we don't travel to these places, or, you know, when we go somewhere, we go here. When we worship at this denomination. We don't really explore outside of what is, you know, we know to be our bubble, is what I'm experiencing. So those could be some very Saturn in the ninth house themes of like not being able to break out and find your own sense of like what it is that you wanted to learn, you know, for yourself. But what I'm going to do is shuffle an Archetypes card and see what archetype is stepping forward to represent Saturn in the ninth house. Saturn in the ninth house, show me clearly. Okay, let's see what we have. The incubator. Okay. And to me, this makes a lot of sense. Okay, this is, with the orange, you can see that this corresponds to the sacral chakra. And the incubator card speaks to someone who, you know, has a lot of ideas, has a lot of things that they want to bring into the world. And this could be through publishing and writing, or exploring their spirituality and philosophy and really being able to express that. You know, if we're looking at the opposition between the third house, which is a house of communication, but more in a Gemini kind of way. Gemini is, you know, speaking one-to-one, kind of like a lower form of communication. Ninth house is broad, big picture thinking, that there could be an element of like constantly incubating something or wanting to birth something into the world, right? And just feeling like with Saturn, when is my time gonna come? You know, like I have all of these things in the oven, and, you know, I am really trying to develop them, and I want to learn more. I want to explore more. And, you know, it's almost like you have things that you're ready to birth. And then it's almost like at the same time, you're waiting to be birthed into the world. It's like, you know, the third house of your environment, your early environment, your neighborhood is like the womb, the cocoon that you're trying to break free from. And I can see that really clearly. It's like you feel that maybe where you come from could be a really big burden. You know, that not necessarily that you don't love or have pride for where you come from, but it's just like a sense of restriction and wanting to break free and see more than what you have experienced in the world. So I can really see that incubator energy being present of like, when is my time gonna come? I have so much to say. I have so much to do. I have so much to create. And those experiences, like I want them and they're out there waiting for me, but when is my time? So that's very, very interesting. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to shuffle up and I'm going to pull your spread, and then we'll see what comes out there. So don't go away. Okay, so we're back, and the first card represents why you incarnated with this placement, or what comes from experiencing this placement of Saturn transiting the ninth house, if this is a transit for you. So let's go ahead and take a look. The Four of Coins. Okay, and so this is the Four of Pentacles, and to me this says you incarnated with this placement to learn really how to be stable in any kind of environment, that you're really learning how to be fortified and how to hold your own in any kind of environment. Saturn is a planet of structure and discipline. This card is ruled by Capricorn, which is ruled by Saturn as well. So it's like in this delay that you're experiencing with Saturn in the ninth house of really not being able to, or experiencing hardship in wanting to expand your horizons, it really is teaching you how to break through some of those barriers that come from your earliest environmental influences. And then also the immediacy of where you are right now in your life. Like, what does the place that you live in look like? What does your neighborhood, what experiences come from your immediate environment? As far as communication, what ways have you felt held back in expressing yourself? What ways have you felt held back in venturing out into new ways of seeing things? Because possibly, one thing that I'm seeing from this Four of Pentacles is there can be an element of holding on really tightly to certain things. And one thing I'm hearing is that you can sometimes miss the forest for the trees. And that's very third house, opposite of the ninth house, where it's like zoom out. And that's one of the things that Saturn is trying to teach you in this ninth house, is how to, have the structure and the discipline to, maintain your stability, but also take things and see them from a higher view, which is very ninth house, to be able to break through some barriers and really explore things and learn things from a new perspective, because the way that you might have experienced life so far, from a more third house perspective, might have limited the way that you see the world, because you might not have had experiences of foreign cultures or, different places that, your peers might have traveled to, abroad at earlier ages. And, you might feel very hindered by that, or in some way that you've been, held back by your environment, by your family, by, your friend circles, whatever, or that you don't measure up in some way to your friend circles, with this ninth house in the way that they've been able to experience different things. You might feel like the odd one out, but it's asking you to feel that sense of stability and structure, of knowing kind of how to set your foundation is what I'm feeling. So that when you're in this ninth house space, when you finally, learn the lesson that Saturn puts you through, those kind of trials that you have to experience, that patience of like, when is my time to get here to this ninth house? It's like you've done some maturing, you've done, some research possibly into what it is that you haven't really experienced. And when you come in contact with these new philosophies, these new cultures, this higher education or spirituality, you'll come to it with a sense of maturity and curiosity, rather than, and this is in no way, don't shoot the messenger, not closed off in, in a way that you've been indoctrinated into a certain way of thinking. And, then those new philosophies and, experiences can't really penetrate that, if you get my meaning. Like, I know that's a lot to kind of, if I'm not explaining that well, but it's like in this period, like you're really incubating and, marinating, but it's like you're eventually going to blossom into this ninth house space, because Saturn matures and it gets better over time. And it's like, with this Four of Coins, it's really setting a foundation of like, who am I in the world? What do I value? With these Pentacles can be related to money. It's kind of Venusian, is how I'm reading it right now, especially with the sacral chakra. And, this in this card, this is a uterus, because I wanted to conceive of it as a womb, where you're kind of incubating and baking, what it is that you want to create for yourself, that, it is really asking you, you know, what do I value as the foundation of my learning, of, you know, my philosophy. And it's almost like, you know, you will be growing into that as a person and discovering what is your own, rather than what is something that someone else taught you that you've come to believe was necessarily your beliefs, but that may or may not be true anymore, or it may have been true at a time and it's not true for you anymore. So the next card that we're going to look at is the benefits of Saturn in the 9th house natal and going through a Saturn in the 9th house transit. And we have the Queen of Wands. And I love this energy. This is definitely an energy of being bold and being daring. And this to me is like learning how to be bold and be daring. The Queen of Wands is very expansive. Like, she doesn't care what anybody else thinks. She does what she wants to do. She, you know, she doesn't take into account, you know, anybody else's opinions of her. And it's like almost the benefits of this placement is not necessarily that you will reap this right away, but it's almost that, you know, over time you step into this because you come from, you know, look how stark everything looks in the Four of Coins. It's very wintry. You know, there's a tent. These Four of Coins are being protected. It's like, you know, you might have come from a very sheltered and isolated and protected environment. And it could have felt very cold. And this could signify the beginning of your incarnation and the way that, you know, your life as a child began. But the benefits are, you know, excuse me, there. The benefits is like, this is your potential, is the Queen of Wands. You see all of this yellow, this sunflower that is almost like a halo behind her head. You know, the joy and the openness of this stance, you know, she really is her with the stance of her arms open, receiving from the universe and expanding into the universe. Like, you know, this card is usually ruled by Aries, but it feels very Sagittarian to me, of like, I can do anything. I can go anywhere. There really is no limit to what it is that I can learn, what I can explore, you know, the religions that I can learn about and incorporate into my own spirituality. Like, it's all mine. It's up to me. That sense of freedom where you really do come forth from this incubator energy, and it's like you're reborn into this really expansive, learned, philosophical person. So the challenges are the next card. Let's take a look at what they are. Okay, and this makes sense too. Here we have the Two of Wands, the waiting game, and Saturn will make you wait. Saturn is structure, Saturn is discipline, Saturn is hard work, and there are going to be some tests. And, you know, the Two of Wands is like a sense of planning and wanting, you know, in the Three of Wands that comes next, it's like where we do the expansion. But in the Two of Wands, we are literally, like, we have the incubator card. We're incubating, you know, energetically to experience this expansion. But there can be a sense of impatience. Like, when is this going to happen? When is my time? And that is going to be a challenge for a long time. And then, you know, anytime that you experience a Saturn in the 9th house transit, I can sense that in the beginning of that 9th house transit, you're going to feel really held back, where you really want to get into something new or learn something new, expand some sort of knowledge, take on a new program of study. It could be anything like that. And, you know, here comes Saturn. But have you considered this, how much it's going to cost? Have you considered, you know, the implications of what it means to your family, if you have a family of your own, or, you know, the amount of responsibility, the amount of debt, you know, those are very Saturnian things that you have to consider. Like, what are the obstacles that are getting in my way? And that doesn't mean that a way can't be cleared, but it's like, you know, Two of Wands definitely speaks to needing a plan and enacting a plan. But in that, there is an incubation period where it's like we're making lists, we're checking them twice, we are, going over our plans so that when we are in our period of expansion in the Three of Wands, we're really reaping all the benefits, just like this Queen of Wands, of the hard work that we've done, that we've set our foundation, like this Four of Coins. And that can seem very challenging. It can seem very punishing. And for all of you Saturn in the ninth house natal placements, I can see where, experiencing this over and over and over again in your lifetime, it can really feel like the universe is handing you your ass sometimes, of like, why do I feel so restricted? There's so much that I want to do. But it's like, I've made a plan, and then here comes something else that I have to consider, another thing that maybe I didn't account or budget for, and now I have to deal with this. Or, like, look at higher education and how, like, the student loan debt crisis has really, hindered people's ability to expand their education. That feels very Saturn in the ninth house. Or, religious institutions, some of them, how they want to really roll back reproductive rights. And they're really, getting into like the legislative process, which is also very ninth house, in order to help enact those laws. That's very Saturn in the ninth house. It's like restricting people's rights. So there's so many ways that this can come about. And it's like, you, Saturn in the ninth house, could be directly affected by some of these things, some of these ways that, these structures and institutions want to keep old ways, and instead of expressing a higher form of the ninth house that wants to express and expand for the good of all people and uphold the highest ideals, that, some institutions can really use that in its lower form to kind of restrict people and hurt people and hold people back. And it usually ends up being the most vulnerable people in society. So, there's a lot there that can be unpacked. And that Two of Wands is like really wanting to do something about that, or really wanting to do something about the ways that affects you on a personal level, or even on a societal level, and feeling like, I can't, or like, when will I be able to do that? Is what I see the challenges can be. So the next tarot placement is how you use Saturn in the ninth house to your highest potential. And we have the Six of Cups. Okay, and the Six of Cups is a card that can speak of nostalgia. It can be a card of looking back. It can be a card of, really sharing your gifts with another person. Any six is a give and take. So there are a couple of things that I see with the Six of Cups. The way that you can use this to your highest potential is really understanding where you come from, and, what ways that your earliest experiences, just like what I was saying earlier, it's so wild that this card is showing up, influenced you at a formative stage in your life, in the ways that either you want Saturn to reinforce those lessons, or the way that you want to break free from those lessons in the ninth house and kind of expand into something that is all your own. The Four of Coins is a foundation. It could be the foundation that was set for you, or it could be the foundation that you want to set for yourself. It really is a choice. And any six, corresponds to the Lovers. The Lovers card used to be called choice. So that is one aspect of what I see with the Six of Cups. Another thing that I can see with the Six of Cups is, being of service to someone else, giving the gift of, the knowledge and wisdom that you gain from this Saturn in the ninth house placement of, the new philosophies, and, when you finally have your Saturn mature, the ways that you travel and expand and experience higher education, or, develop your own spirituality, your own individual wisdom, the ways that you bring that back to your community, because we're talking about, this place of nostalgia of your childhood or your earlier years in the Six of Cups. the ways that you bring that back, and maybe it is a gift, it's a way to affect change in your earliest environment, or the area where you come from, where there's maybe not as much exposure to the wider world, to other cultures. And you never know the ways that you could actually be, you know, lighting a fire and incubating, you know, lighting a flame in someone else to go out and explore, you know, this ninth house area for themselves. Like, were it not for you, they may have never even understood or, you know, thought about, you know, doing any of these things, expanding into higher learning, writing a book, publishing. You know, they may have had all of this potential that would have gone unused were it not for you. That, you know, with this incubator energy, that you could really be the inspiration for someone else. Like, you know, you are the creator, but you're also the muse. And that's really, really beautiful. And then we're going to look at the next card, which is the ways that you may work against yourself with Saturn in the ninth house. And we have Four of Cups in reverse. So the Four of Cups in reverse, to me, let me feel into this. Because this is also a card, if we turn it in the upright, of like not seeing the gift of what the universe is giving us. But it's like in the reverse, I'm getting the sense it's like not wanting to see, because you may be disillusioned or feel like, you know, what does it matter that it's not a possibility for me anyway. And this could be when Saturn really, you know, gets down on you, when you experience your Saturn return. Oh boy, you know, those are the hardest times, you know, that test our resolve. You know, but that Four of Cups is like really wanting something, wanting to feel fulfilled, wanting those three cups in front of us to be filled up, but they're empty. And there is a cup that the universe is offering us that, you know, is the potential of something new, something that we could really love. And we're not looking at it because we're so focused on those three cups that, you know, are no longer able to fill us up. So in the Four of Cups in reverse, it's like the way that you may work against yourself is in those times when you feel very restricted by Saturn, is like almost cutting yourself off, being self-punishing or you know, giving yourself more discipline than Saturn is actually doing, like not allowing yourself to experience any kind of fun because you feel like, what's the point? You know, there's so much that I want to do. I feel limited. You know, you can't get into this Queen of Wands space at times and really, you know, expand, explore, travel. And it's like you feel really left out by the universe. Like this Four of Cups in reverse feels very Five of Pentacles to me, like very iced out and feeling very much alone. But what it really tells me is that the ways that you can kind of break out of this Four of Cups energy is to, rather than, you know, do what Saturn is doing, is being the restrictor, kind of being the disciplinarian and testing you, is to kind of try to break through that in small ways. Go back to that Three of Cups, you know, and if we're talking about Three of Cups, go back to that third house energy. You know, get in touch with some people that are in your environment, you know, in your neighborhood, your friend circles. You know, the third house is ruled by, you know, corresponds with Gemini. Gemini is our friends. It can be our siblings. It could be our extended family, but, you know, it rules our neighborhood as well. You know, are there ways that you can reconnect with people in your surroundings that don't make you feel like you're all by yourself, that can kind of put you in this space where you feel like a Queen of Wands, where you feel, you know, more in a celebratory stance instead of like crying into your soup. And it's okay, because we all feel like that sometimes. But it's like you may find yourself, you know, getting stuck in that because Saturn is a very hard planet. And, you know, those obstacles, they can feel insurmountable sometimes. And it's like, how do I even get through it? And sometimes it can feel like, you know, what's the point in even trying? But there is value in trying. And that's a really important thing for you to know. So the last card is overall advice for working with this energy. And you got the Queen of Swords in reverse. So the Queen of Swords in reverse is very interesting for this because you have the Queen of Wands as the benefits. But this really does speak of right thinking, of being very discerning and very logical in your thinking. Where the ninth house is like taking a higher view, the Queen of Swords upright I see as being very astute and very, able to cut through certain things and see into a situation. I'm almost seeing the Queen of Swords in the reverse as using that ninth house energy of being able to take a higher view rather than being so focused on one thing or, zooming in to how it is you're feeling, how it is that you're experiencing life in any one moment. Kind of looking at the trajectory of where you've been and where you're going in, a more global way, like thinking global, but doing it in a very astute and rational way. And that's not to, sometimes I don't like saying rational because that kind of implies that you're being irrational, but it's more so kind of taking your emotions out of it a little bit when you can be really activated, and really gaining some perspective is what I'm trying to say. So the overall advice, is when things get really rough, is really giving yourself some perspective, that the Queen of Swords is really asking you the big question of like what it is that you're going for with this ninth house, and that what is when it's all said and done, with Saturn and all the hard work that you've put in, what is it that you're trying to achieve? What is your goal? And keep your eye on the prize, but don't be so focused, like I said in the Four of Coins, on stability and being so rooted and so fixed that you miss the forest for the trees. Definitely keep your eye on the long game and, where it is that you can see yourself over the long-term trajectory of your life, because there are so many ninth house experiences that you're meant to have that are very enriching. So let's go ahead and pull some oracle cards and see what else comes out for you. What we have for Saturn in the ninth house. And I hope that made sense. Like, I was really trying to get that. I feel like that Jupiterian energy was kind of like grabbing hold of my mind. So, okay, hostilities, conflict, unrest. And here we go. We have 31 reducing down to a 4, like the Four of Coins. This could be hostilities, like inner conflictedness. This could be conflict within, your family circle, within your environment, unrest in where you come from, or a feeling of unrest and conflict with the way that you were raised, or what you were exposed to, and the beliefs that you were exposed to, and the ways that you might have felt cheated out of experiences of, the experience to expand, and maybe years that you feel like you lost, is something that I'm getting to, where you didn't get to really, see things as much as, other people that did, maybe. And that might have caused some inner unrest. Okay. And here we have card 38, which reduces down to an 11. That is justice. So that is really speaks to a feeling of fairness or unfairness or cause and effect. Understanding, like this happened and now this is my life, or you know, it also corresponds with the high priestess of connecting with your higher self, you know, and your spirituality with the ninth house. But this also says sensuality, feminine wisdom, passion. I can see that with the incubator as well, of really, you know, wanting to create from your wild feminine. And that doesn't, we all have feminine energy. That doesn't necessarily restrict you to being a woman. You can be a woman, a man, you can be gender non-binary and still have the wild feminine within you from which to create, from which to incubate, from which to birth things into the world. And this is just getting you in touch with that sensuality. And I really do see that with the Queen of Wands as well. She's someone very sensual. The wands are also very sexual. So, you know, that could be something that's like you're growing into with this ninth house energy of like expanding into different experiences that you hadn't had the chance to really be exposed to, you know, that really brings you into a part of yourself that you didn't even know about, which is very, very interesting. Okay. Let's see what else we have for you. What else is about Saturn in the ninth house? And, you know, something else I'm getting with this hostilities, conflict and unrest is that maybe one of the reasons that, like, and this is especially involving like travel abroad, Saturn might have been holding you back from being able to travel abroad to foreign countries if there were different places that you were going where there were a lot of hostilities and conflict and unrest. And that could be Saturn keeping you safe, giving you some structure. And, you know, it might have felt punishing, but it was actually protecting you, is another thing that I heard. Okay, mirror. Who or what is triggering you? So yeah, there could be, you know, some really triggering memories or triggering experiences. You know, the third house really reminds me of that because it's the house that corresponds with Gemini and it's opposite the ninth house. Like, you know, what experiences, you know, what people were you necessarily possibly comparing yourself to that really triggered those feelings of kind of FOMO is what I'm getting, or, you know, or even the experiences that you had with, you know, the people closest to you that, you know, that really could have triggered feelings of like, why me? Why is this happening to me? Why can't I, you know, why do I feel so restricted? Why do I have to do things this way because you say, and could have really caused some hostilities within, you know, within your family. Let's see what else we have. Deep replenishment, retreat, rest, and be held. Okay, and that is something that I can also kind of tie in with the Four of Cups, that sometimes, like, this card is ruled by the moon in Cancer, and Cancer is a sign of nourishment and needing to be replenished. And, you know, the moon is our emotions, and when we get overwhelmed, there can be a real need for us to rest, to take a time out, to really get back to center. You know, and there just feels like a lot of when Saturn, you know, is at play, Saturn rules the opposite sign of Capricorn. It can really, you know, activate us, you know, when we feel like we're hitting a brick wall. And sometimes we can keep running at that wall, right? Because there's that Two of Wands present of like, there could be an element of impatience there where we want things to happen. And we really do just need to take a time out to replenish ourselves and be held, hold ourselves and find safe people to hold space for us as well in those times where we just feel, you know, like we can't kind of get that grounding and stability under ourselves. So let's see what crystal wisdom we have here for you. Okay. And look at that, sodalite, speak your truth. Okay, and that goes along with the Queen of Swords. Queen of Swords is definitely someone who will say what is on her mind, and she is not afraid. The Queen of Wands as well is not afraid of, you know, what people's opinions are. So like a little bit of both of those queens. Say how you're feeling. Don't hold it in. You know, with these fours, this energy of like wanting to be rooted and grounded, that can also be keeping things inside, but really expressing and saying how you're feeling, especially if something is really triggering you, that it's important to get that energy out. Okay, and you guys got two more. Let's see, you got golden healer quartz, open the door. So yeah, that speaks to really allowing yourself, you know, as Saturn gives you that spaciousness to explore. Open the door. Open the door to, you know, new philosophies, new discoveries. And look, Lemurian quartz, practice patience with this Two of Wands. So it's like, yeah, the doors will open in time, just like with Saturn. You know, Saturn gets better with time. That, you know, you got to practice a little bit of patience, and it is hard as hell. Trust me. I know. My moon is ruled by Saturn. I'm a Capricorn moon, and I feel like, you know, sometimes like, why is Saturn doing this to me? Why, with all this Capricorn in my chart? So I feel you. If this message is hitting, I definitely feel you. And when Saturn goes into Pisces, it will be transiting my 9th house. So this is really good for me. Okay, and you got overcoming fear. And this mantra says, I transcend every loss. So, you know what? This to me, just like I said, that Saturn and Capricorn rule time, this feels like transcending every year, every experience, every opportunity that you feel like passed you by. You know, and I said something about FOMO too, like overcoming the fear of missing out, because doors are going to open for you. There are things that are inside of you that you have an important, you know, skill or philosophy or something to say, something that you need to write or publish, or, you know, a new approach to spirituality. It's something, you know, that has to be birthed into the world. And, you know, it's just a matter of timing, of waiting for that door to open. But it's like, just how I said, Saturn rewards those hard lessons. You're going to transcend, you know, every obstacle that Saturn has put in your way, because as long as you pass the test, it's so worth it. Let's see what else comes out. Okay, and we got untangling neglect. Okay, and that's it. You might have felt neglected by the people closest to you. You might have felt neglected by the universe. There's so many ways this could apply, but I take the time to give myself all the approval I desire. And this Four of Cups in reverse really feels like this, untangling neglect, like feeling left out, feeling like you were abandoned, feeling like, you know, why me? You know, why can't I have this? Why, you know, why am I being left out? I'm really, really feeling that strongly. So the last cards I'm going to pull are some oracle cards that reframe statements. And I love these so much. And I feel like with Saturn's presence, like you need them more than ever. And look, we got reconnect. Trigger statement, I need to escape. Okay, 9th house expansion, true statement, I am present. The root of the issue for you will make itself known. Be open to the information you receive from your body, mind, and environment. Okay, yes, body feedback, mind feedback, environmental feedback. That's what I kept thinking with that 3rd house opposition, is like you really have to give yourself the gift of not being isolated, you know, and escaping into yourself. Be present with other people, and be present with yourself even when you're alone. Very important. Okay, and we have wisdom. Okay, another keyword that's on the 9th house card. Trigger statement, it doesn't make sense. True statement, I see the bigger picture. I said that 9th house is all about seeing the bigger picture. You are moving towards a deeper level of understanding, from knowledge to wisdom. Take time to absorb the lessons. Saturn is teaching you very important lessons. So, let's get one more. All right, and we got acceptance. Trigger statement, I can't trust anyone. Okay, mirror, who or what is triggering you? True statement, everyone deserves my love. I open my heart to heal and release. I open myself to the peace of divine love and grace. Okay, that is beautiful. So, yeah, your heart could feel a little bit closed off. You know, especially if there have been hostilities in your relationships, in your family, you know, around some of these restrictions, and it's felt really triggering. You felt neglected. You felt like you've experienced a lot of loss of time. And, you know, time is that thing that we can't get back. It can really, you know, affect our sense of self-worth. So I feel you and I see you if that's your experience, but you are definitely moving towards something bigger and something better. Saturn in the 9th house. Yeah, but that is all of the messages that I'm seeing for you. So make sure to leave a comment letting me know what resonated for you. And also let me know what placements you'd like to see next. I'm going to get to them all, but I don't want to keep you waiting if there's one you really want to see. And thank you so much for being here. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this channel. I appreciate you helping it grow. And hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of my future videos. Stay safe, be gentle with yourselves, and I will see you again soon, okay? Bye, loves.